Okay, welcome back. Now we go to Genesis chapter 32. I'm going to read the first two verses of Genesis 32. And Jacob started on his way again. The angels of God came to meet him. When Jacob saw them, he exclaimed, "This is God's camp." So he named the place Mahanaim. Then Jacob sent messengers ahead to his brother Esau, who was living in the region of Seir in the land of Edom. He told them, "Give this message to my master Esau. Humble greetings from your servant Jacob. Until now I have been living with my uncle Laban, and now I now own my own cattle, donkeys, flocks of sheep and goats, and many servants, both men and women. I have sent these messengers to inform my lord of my coming, hoping that you will be friendly to me." After delivering this message, the messengers returned to Jacob and reported, "We met your brother Esau, and he is already on his way to meet you, with an army of 400 men." Verse 7, Jacob was terrified at the news. He divided his household, along with the flocks and herds and camels, into two groups. Verse 8 says, he thought, if Esau meets one group and attacks it, perhaps the other group can escape. Then Jacob prayed, "O God of my grandfather Abraham, and God of my father Isaac, O Lord, you told me, return to your own land and to your own relatives, and you promised me I would treat you kindly. I am not worthy of all the unfailing love and faithfulness you have shown to me, your servant. When I left home and crossed the Jordan River, I owned nothing except a walking stick. Now my household filled two large camps. O Lord, please rescue me from the hand of my brother Esau. I am afraid that he is coming to attack me, along with my wives and children. But you promised me I will surely treat you kindly. I will multiply your descendants until they become as numerous as the sands of the seashore, too many to count." Praise God. Now, in Genesis chapter 32 and 33, this contains some strange experience of the life of Jacob. Remember, Jacob was the chosen one. We've already pointed out earlier that Jacob did not trust in the Lord so much. He's not had his own personal encounter except for when he was at Bethel and God spoke to him in a dream. And since the time he was born, he has been exercising his own natural abilities, trying to think things through by himself and trying to be cunning as much as possible. So in chapter 31, he ran from Laban, and God delivered him from Laban's hand. However, in chapter 32, we now see Jacob now has another problem, confronting the problem ahead, which is now his elder brother Esau, whose birthright he has taken. So, in chapter 31, he ran from Laban. Chapter 32 is coming to face Esau. So Jacob at this point was in a dilemma. Behind him, Laban, in front of him, Esau. So I believe that while Jacob was kind of fleeing from Laban and returning to the promised land, he was greatly disturbed that there is this problem that is coming, that is still ahead of me. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. And then so chapter 32 starts with some angels appearing to Jacob, and he saw them. It was in a vision. The Bible says Jacob saw them, and he said, "This is the camp of God." And he called the place Mahanaim. Mahanaim means two camps. So it's like two camps of angels showed up to him. So as Jacob went on his way, he was probably thinking how he would face his brother Esau. Perhaps he said to himself, "I have been delivered from my uncle, but I shall still meet my brother Esau. So let me just split my things into two camps, the same way I saw the angels that came to me in two camps." Jacob was not really looking at the spiritual significance of the coming of the angels to him, but rather he was consumed by the fear of his brother and what was ahead of him, that he didn't even think so much about those coming of angels. So his own natural wisdom was not saying, because the same way the angels came into camps, he's going to divide his assets into two, and send one group first, telling them that when you see my brother Esau, please appeal to him. And if they don't answer you, if he says no, by the time he sees my second group, he may perhaps show me mercy. Of course, fear came to Jacob because of the response he got when they told him that, listen, your brother is coming against you with 400 warriors. So Jacob did not put his trust in the angels he saw. Rather, Jacob was still thinking about his own wisdom. Jacob was still thinking, how can I do this by my own strength? So although we can only guess at what Jacob was thinking when he did this thing, that is when he split the two camps. However, Jacob was greatly afraid, as mentioned in verse 7 and verse 8 that we read earlier on. He was greatly afraid and distressed, and he divided the people that was with him and the flock. So if Esau comes and he smites the first one, at least the second set can escape. Jacob was still operating based on his own wisdom, trying to be clever. So after making these arrangements, Jacob probably was not still at peace with himself. So he did something that was unusual for the first time. In verse 9 to verse 12, Jacob prayed. Before this time, Jacob had never prayed. When God appeared to him at Bethel, he woke up, he only made a vow. But this is the first time Jacob was going to pray. All the 20 years he was in the house of Laban, there was no account that Jacob prayed. What we learned in Laban's home was that the angel appeared to him, Jacob, and gave him a strategy of how to put the animals when they are mating so that it can begin to make wealth. But Jacob prayed a very good prayer in that prayer in just verse 9 to verse 12. And listen to his prayers. He said, O God of my father Abraham, the God of my father Isaac, the Lord will said to me, return unto your country and to your kindred, and I will do you good. Here we see that Jacob is praying the mind of God. The promises of God. Is holding on to those promises. He was reminding God of the things he told him. He says, Lord, didn't you say that you will do me good? Now I stand on your word and ask you to do something about it. Although this verse seems to indicate that Jacob was quite experienced in prayer, no, but this was actually the first time he prayed. But the prayer was good. He was reminding God. And that's why when we want to, for effective prayer, we need to take scriptures back to God when we are praying. God, you've said so, and so. So Lord, now act upon your word over my life. You said the righteous will not be forsaken. Lord, there's a challenge here. You said I will not be forsaken. So Lord, come and bring your word to come to pass in my life. Praise God. So you take the scriptures back to God. And that was the high point. The high point of Jacob's prayer, especially in verse 12, he says, and thou said, I will surely do thee good, and make thy seed as the sand of the sea, which cannot be multiplied for multitude. So in this prayer, Jacob was touching God's economy. And he said, you make me great. You make me a multitude. So he was bringing the prayers to God based on the promises of God. So praying the will of God is praying the promises of God that you read in the scriptures. God, you said the righteous will not be forsaken, nor sick begging bread. Oh Lord, this is a challenge for me at this point in time. finances are down, but you said you not see the righteous forsaken or is begging bread. Lord, come and act on your word in my life in this area of need. Lord, I need your divine provision. I need you to intervene supernaturally in my life. Praise God. So let's move on to verse 13 to 17. Jacob stayed where he was for the night. Now that was after he had sent the two camps, to go ahead. Then he selected this gift from his possession to present to his brother Esau. 20 female goats, 20 male goats, 20 ewes, 20 rams, 30 female camels with their young, 14 cows, 10 bulls, 20 female donkeys, and 10 male donkeys. He divided these animals into earth and assigned them to those of his servants. Praise God. Go ahead of me with the animals, but keep some distance between the earths. So he gave the instructions to the group that they should go. He said, when my brother Esau meets you and asks you, what is this? So you need to just tell them, these are for you from your brother. Praise God. So Jacob now divided what he has into two. In fact, it was actually three companies, but by verse 17, we were still looking at two companies. So let's move on. In verse 18, he says, you must reply, they belong to your servant Jacob, but they are a gift for his master Esau. Look, he's coming right behind us. Jacob gave the same instruction to the second and third earthmen. See, three groups. And to all who follow behind the earth, you must say the same thing to Esau when you meet him. And be sure to say, look, your servant Jacob is right behind us. Jacob thought, I will try to appease him by sending all these gifts to him. When I see him in person, perhaps he will be friendly with me. And verse 21 of Genesis 32 says, so the gift was sent ahead, while Jacob himself spent the night at the camp. Praise God. And at that night, he was still not comfortable. And so you go to verse 22, when Bible now says, during the night, Jacob took his two wives and his two concubines and his 11 sons and crossed the Jabbok River, taking them with him. Praise God. We'll stop there. We'll continue on the next series from verse 22 of Genesis 32. God bless you. Welcome back. At the last series, we stopped at Genesis 32, verse 22. And I'll read from verse 22 going forward. It says, during the night, Jacob got up and took his two wives, his two servants, concubines as well, and his 11 sons, and he crossed the Jabbok River with them. And after taking them to the other side, he sent over all his possessions. This left Jacob alone in the camp, and a man came and wrestled with him until the dawn began to break. When the man saw that he would not win the match, he touched Jacob's hip and wrenched it out of his socket. Then the man said, let me go, for the dawn is breaking. But Jacob said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. What is your name? The man asked. He replied, Jacob. Verse 28, your name will no longer be Jacob, the man told him. From now on, you will be called Israel, because you have fought with God and with men and have won. Please tell me your name, Jacob said. Why do you want to know my name? The man replied. Then he blessed Jacob there. Jacob named the place Peniel, which means face of God. For he said, I have seen God face to face, yet my life is spared. The sun was rising as Jacob left Peniel, and he was limping because of the injury to his hip. Verse 32, even today, the people of Israel don't eat the tendon near the hip socket because of what happened that night when the man strained the tendon of Jacob's hip. Now, this is where we now say the beginning of the breaking down of Jacob and the transformation that had been going on gradually through challenges. So we see an experience here, very different. God was the one who chose Jacob, and God was the one who picked him. And God had in mind that Jacob is going to be used as the message or the teachings of transformation of a believer. So Jacob's experience in this chapter was personal and intimate. What could be more intimate than one wrestling with God for almost half a night, from about midnight to 6 a.m.? The Lord in the form of man wrestled with Jacob until the breaking of the day. The Lord would never have wrestled with a stranger or with an unbeliever. Notice that we are not told that the man came to wrestle with Jacob. No. It says Jacob wrestled. Why did the Lord suddenly begin to wrestle with Jacob? There are certain things that we need to understand. Now, Jacob, as he was returning to his father's land, he has two problems. Laban one, Esau the second. So when Jacob heard the report that his brother was coming with 400 men, he became terrified. He knew that Esau will kill him and kill all he has. So he developed the strategy to begin to send things across. And at a point, Jacob was now left alone. Sent his wife over the Jabbok, and he now was left alone. Now we could ask 4 questions. 1, why did the Lord as a man wrestle with Jacob? What was the need for it? 2, why could the Lord, who is the Almighty, not prevail against Jacob, a little man, in an instant? 3, why did the Lord wait so long before he touched the hollow of Jacob's thigh? And number 4, why did the Lord refuse to tell Jacob his name? See, these are questions that demand certain answers. But on many occasions, God will reveal himself to his people, especially to Abraham. He will tell Abraham, I am the Lord your God. Walk before me and be thou perfect. He will reveal himself to Abraham at different times, using different names. But in the case of David, he did not reveal himself to David. He came to wrestle with him. What was the importance of it? That spiritually means it was the breaking down, the final breaking down of Jacob, and the God touching the hollow of his thigh, that he began to walk with a limp. That as long as he walks with that limp, he will remember that he is the one who has now become the Prince of God. Because God now changed his name at that prayer point. He says, you no more be called Abraham, but Israel shall be your name. Now, this experience of Jacob was neither the appearance of God nor the visitor of God that was the real deal. The same thing happens to us. In other words, what happened to him is as if, it has not happened to anyone and it will not happen to anyone. But the truth of the matter is this: even when you got saved, did God appear to you at some point? And then after a while, God began to break you down. And this in my own experience, that was it. At the early stage of my relationship, I saw God as the Father. I enjoyed fellowship. I enjoyed service. But after a while, God now began to deal with my weakness. He began to deal with the areas of my flesh that need to be dealt with. The area of anger, the area of other things. Praise God. Now, God is also doing the same with every one of us. God is always wrestling. He's still wrestling with many of us even till today. Now, when you ask, how is God wrestling with us? He wrestles with us based on the experiences of our lives based on sometimes in a marriage. You find out that God is using your wife to wrestle with you so that I can break some things down by the challenges that come up in your marriage. But if you do not understand it, you say, oh, my wife is a troublesome person. My wife is giving these troubles. But God is using that experience to break you down, to transform you. He breaks down the areas where He knows you need a working upon. He will bring people. If you're a woman, He will bring your husband, the one that is closest to you, as the one that God will be using to break you down and to humble you. But you will not understand it if you don't understand spiritual things. You will only be focusing that my husband is just, I don't even know why I even married him. But you know you cannot divorce. You know that you are in this marriage for the long haul. And so you just must know, even from today's teachings, that sometimes it may be the Lord that is wrestling with you. But He will come as a man. He won't come as an angel. He won't come as God in the atmosphere. He will use people to break you down. And that was the meaning of the wrestling of Jacob with a man. Initially, I believe Jacob must have thought that this person that came must have been one of the people from Esau, the servants of Esau, his elder brother. Because when the man came, he was alone at that point in time. No wife, no children, nothing. And then the man wrestled with him. But as the day was breaking, all of a sudden it occurred to Jacob that no, this is not man. This must be an angelic visitation of God Himself. And so he wrestled. And at the end of the day, early part of the morning, the man said, I want to go. Jacob said, no, you will not go unless you bless me. And the man said, what's your name? And Jacob says, I surrender. My name is Jacob. I am a supplanter. I've tried anything by my own strength. It has not worked. And now my brother is in front of me. He's ahead, coming with 400 men. I have nowhere to run to. I've said everything I have ahead of me to go meet him. Lord, if he now kills all the things I brought, then definitely my life also will go. At that point in time, he had no other option but to cry unto God in the place of wrestling. And God now said, today you've confirmed that your name is the supplanter, but you've wrestled with me in the place of prayer, and I've answered you. Now I'm changing your name from Jacob to Israel. Israel means the praise of God. God now says, because you have wrestled with God and you have prevailed. You have prevailed. He said you have prevailed with God and man. So at that point in time, God was telling him, even concerning Esau, you are going to prevail. So after sending his family across Jabbok, Jabbok means empty. The empty thing, the empty place. He spent that night at that place called Peniel. Now, when he wrestled with him, we remember Hosea chapter 12 verse 4. It says, and the angel of Jehovah, the Lord himself, the Lord put the socket of Jacob's hip out of joint, causing him to walk with a limp all the rest of his life. So although Jacob lost the encounter physically, he won a great spiritual victory. He learned to triumph through defeat and to be strong through weakness. Emptied of self and of all confidence in his own cleverness, he confessed that he was Jacob, a supplanter, a con man. God then changed his name to Israel. Israel means God rules. It also means the prince of God. Also means ones who strive with God. Jacob called the name Peniel. He says, because I was seeing the Lord face to face and my life was preserved. Praise God. So that was the change in the life of Jacob that started from when he ran from his family to Laban. 20 years of hardship, 20 years of dealing with. And when he ran from Laban, Laban pursued him to kill him. But God appeared to Laban and said, don't touch him. And then he made peace with Laban. Laban went back, and then there was Esau. That was ahead. And Esau was coming at him with 400 men. He knew that he had no choice. That was his last surrender. And then that day, after the wrestling, God changed his name to the Prince of God. Now you know that God wrestled with man, but he wouldn't come as an angel. He will come as a man. He will come as somebody that comes with you, that comes against you, or a companion, or a friend that now becomes a thorn in your flesh. God uses all of those experiences to break you down to the stage where you now say, Lord, I know I can't continue in my own strength. I hand over my marriage to you. Please take it over from here. We'll stop here. We start chapter 33 of Genesis at the next series. God bless you.